What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Welcome, everyone. You're watching SkepTalk on the line. It's May 20th, 2024, and the lines are open. And if you'd like to call in with a question or an argument about whether or not God or Jesus exists in reality, we would love for you to call in at 720-619-2288. And if you're calling from the United States, if you're calling from outside the United States, or would like to use the web call-in feature, you can find that link down in the description. I'm John Gleason, the godless engineer, and joining me today is Aron Adair, which I'm sure everybody watching is very used to. But Aron, do you want to tell everybody who you are and everything like that?
Who am I? Jeez, there was something in my drink. I've forgotten. I'm that guy. So physics guy, data scientist guy, occasional moonlighting as a Bible scholar, just to be a dabbler in all things and failing at all of them equally.
I don't know. You've written way more books than me, so I don't think that's failing at all.
I
know.
I take your anti-criticism well. Just saying I take your anti-criticism well.
Yeah. And everybody was wondering what I was drinking last night. Last night I was drinking Kona Light. Tonight I'm drinking Fire Maker Perfect Match, which is a Georgia craft beer. So in case anybody's wondering what I'm drinking, because there's normally a question in the comments. But anyways, we are going to jump to calls as soon as we get some in. Like I said, all of the lines are open, so please do. If you are a theist, please call in and have a conversation with us and try to either convince us as to why God exists or any number of things. We can tackle evolution. We can tackle the historical reliability of the New Testament, and things of that nature. So if you want to challenge us, please do call in. But I do want to remind everybody that at the end of the show, we will take super chat questions and read them. And it will be any super chat over $5 or more. So if you would like to, super chat in a question for Aron and I to discuss or interact with, or just read out loud in general, please do. We would really like that. So I asked Paulogia this last night, and I don't know if I've asked you before, so stop me if I have. But in your opinion, what is your favorite worst argument for God?
Favorite worst argument. Oh, that is painful. Look at the trees. That one always comes to my mind as, are we even trying? And yet somehow people will jump to that. It is basically argument from ignorance writ large.
That is a pretty good bad one. I personally, like I said last night, I like Pascal's wager as the worst argument, just because it seems like such a lazy argument. But that one too is also lazy. I hear that come in a lot of different forms. And like one of the ones that's very obviously pushing God into the recesses of human knowledge is when they start saying that, well, God is necessary for natural things to happen. Like God is the integral thing that makes every natural process operate. And I've never heard any religious person ever actually be able to substantiate that. It just seems like a baseless claim of theirs.
It might have worked 500 years ago when we also were using that logic to justify literal freaking magic. And when I say literal freaking magic, I mean literally you open up like a book from Paracelsus from 1600, and basically you learn about how if you take a murder weapon and clean the murder weapon, it will actually also heal the wound of the person victimized by said weapon. That was in the quote-unquote science manuals of the time, and that sort of sympathetic magic was usually understood as being supported by supernatural things like that. So it made more sense back then, but when we started doing that whole science thing, we realized, nah, dog, this ain't
it. Yeah. It's amazing how many things that people used to believe were magical, and then we later figured out some kind of natural explanation or some kind of better idea than magic. But yet you still have so many people today that cling to magical ideas. Just the like prayer is one thing. Like I get that a lot of people have different opinions about prayer. But it's the people out there that would rather pray than actually do something. And they think that they're doing something by praying, like God is going to do something because they ask politely or something like that. I don't know. What's your take on prayer?
It's one of my go-to spells when I'm playing Final Fantasy, but outside of that, I mean, but that's in a case where prayer actually literally does something.
Yeah. So what does it do in D&D?
Oh, I have no idea. I've never played D&D.
Oh, okay.
I'm playing different RPGs, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. I know. I can't remember. Oh, I think there was a Midnight Suns is something that I played. It's a a turn-based Marvel game. There's something like Prey in it. It's not actually Prey, but it's pretty close. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like when people are like, "Hey, let's offer prayers for some tragedy that happened," it just seems to me like it's very self-aggrandizing, I guess. Like you're only helping yourself. Like you're not actually. I feel like you're providing like, oh well, I hope things get better or whatnot, but you're not actually doing something to make things better. It's just you're sort of wishing things would be better, and just don't see how that helps.
I can see in certain contexts where it can be a much more sociable activity, just like when we have a moment of silence, and that's basically not so much because we think we're changing the world in that way, but we're kind of like coming together and feeling a sense of importance or tragedy in some sort of common event. In that sort of context, I can see a possible value. Though, of course, like I say, there's the secular version of moment of silence. So again, it skips the supernatural element and still can have a lot of potency.
Yeah. Okay. We're still waiting on somebody to call in, preferably a theist. If you think that you can prove any of the stuff that we're talking about is wrong, then please go ahead and call in. The number is 1-720-619-2288. I actually did that from memory this time. So I'm glad I didn't mess it up. Anyways, so one of the things that's been kind of popular for me to kind of cover here in the recent weeks has been the Kalam cosmological argument. And I'm kind of curious, what's your take on the Kalam cosmological argument? Do you think that it's a pretty bad argument? Do you think that I don't want to put words into your mouth or anything. What do you think about it?
I will say that probably most professional arguments for theism in general will lead down interesting rabbit holes, but their actual arguments ultimately are not all that good or powerful, and then there ultimately just have to be bazillions of kludges for them to work. So, like specifically the Kalam cosmology argument that like Bill Craig has been pushing, it also requires a certain theory of time, which we've basically abandoned since special relativity became the norm in physics. There's basically two grand categories of theories of time, A theory and B theory. A theory basically says only the present exists, the future and past don't, and there's also a common agreement on what the present is. Special relativity, you get your block universe, past, present, and future all exist at once. We actually don't all agree on what the present moment is. Everyone has their own clock depending on their reference frame. Things like that basically make the A theory impossible, because you can't say this moment is both past, present, and future, just depending on your reference frame, and say that they all exist, but only one of them actually exists. The A theory just completely falls apart, at least it has usually conceptualized. So the fact that Craig's entire idea about infinite regresses in time like that are dependent on the A theory, which if you tell a physicist what that means, they'll probably say, no, we don't believe that. It's just like, all right, then it's a no-go. The argument is based on a wrong metaphysics of time. And so Craig in particular has to then find like the 5 physicists who are left that still think there's some way of mashing special relativity into some sort of A-theory paradigm by somehow creating the ether again. So there is some absolute time somewhere that has the job of doing one thing, and that's making Craig's argument even have a beginning point worth talking.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that it stalls out before it even begins. But I know typically in the past, before I understood like the causal principle and the problems with proposing that as your first point, I've always just sort of just accepted, it just for the sake of argument. And I feel like the Kalam cosmological argument only really gets you to this idea that this iteration of our universe inflated at one point, like it quote unquote began to exist. And so I guess I'm kind of curious, like how did you start off interacting with the cosmological argument? Like, did you start like you reserved any kind of conclusion about it until you understood like all the points better, or like what was that process like for you?
To me, I probably spent most of the time trying to understand the arguments for why an infinite regress is somehow logically or metaphysically impossible, and finding that one, it allows me to do a bunch of math because that's awesome, and two, I look into it, I'm like, I don't see anything here that strikes me as metaphysically impossible. I mean, infinity is all sorts of crazy, weird. You get into set theory, and there are different size infinities. And no, I'm not just making stuff up. This is standard mathematics for the last 150 years. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff was just cool and interesting, and made me realize, okay, there's no reason for me to accept this part of the premise. And you can also then like do some back and forth on some of the other premises, like everything that begins to exist has a cause. Okay, this actually then, if we just accept that premise, I also note that every single thing I've ever observed has a material cause. So if every if every effect has a cause and every effect has a material cause, then the first cause must also be material. To say that that's somehow immaterial or ex nihilo from nothing at all, that would go against the very same logic that someone like Bill Craig would use and say, in all of our experience, every effect has had a cause. Every effect we've ever seen has had a material cause. In fact, in Aristotle's system of causes, there is efficient, teleological, material, and formal cause. And so if you're going to say everything has a cause, but only of the types of causes that I want for my argument, it looks like so much special pleading.
Yeah, it really does. A lot of it seems like a lot of special pleading for it. Yeah, while you were talking, I had a really good next question lined up, but then I got really into what you were saying about everything, and I kind of lost it. I'm sure it'll come back to me if it's really all that important. But as far as the Kalam cosmological argument goes, I know that's been popularized by like William Lane Craig and everything like that. But another argument that I guess we kind of interacted with here yesterday on the After Dark show was this concept of morality. Not necessarily that it proves God in that particular context, but I'm just wondering, what's your opinion on the moral argument for God's existence? Mainly that there is absolute morals, or there are absolute morals, or objective morals that we say exist, and that somehow points to God. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I look at the moral argument and feel like Plato already showed this is not going to work 24 centuries ago. So with the famous Euthyphro dilemma, does God say something is good, or is something good and God says it, basically? You have like the two horns of the dilemma. Is if God is saying things are good because they actually are, so then there's some external reason for why they're good. If conversely God says it's good and that's the reason it's good, that's just completely arbitrary. Why should we accept that as the standard for being good? You basically either have external source or arbitrariness. That's the two horns of the dilemma. And everything I've seen apologists try to do to get around that, it just requires me to take like one step back from any of their rhetoric when they say, well, this is just parts of God's nature. So why are we saying God's nature is good? Well, because it's part of his nature. Okay, so it's arbitrary. It just whatever happens to be God's nature. And if God happened to be Satan, then Satan is good just because we're now just aligning that with God's nature. It's like all we have to do is just take one step back and we realize, nope, we haven't made any advancement at all. We've just filled tomes of paper to get back to square one. And yeah, so much on divine command theory. It requires previous premises that are not in evidence or not justified. When I've seen, like, again, our friend Bill Craig use this, and he's saying, like, hey, God is a moral authority, and we should listen to authorities. Okay, so why is that true? Why do we believe that? Is that because God said so? Oh, well, we're back to the arbitrariness then again. The reason, like, I will go with the authority of, say, a police officer is because there are some practical reasons why I should probably give deference to a police officer. If for no other reason, the reason of the baton. Though obviously that
they
is
could definitely fuck
not
you
necessarily.
up, sure.
Yeah. Or that we have actually done something in our society to give people these sorts of powers. And if we also can talk about them abusing said powers or abusing their authority. It seems like God has authority, but he can't possibly abuse it. On what grounds? God said he didn't abuse it. Again, it's just God said it, I believe it, that settles it. It's no more sophisticated than that level of creationist argumentation ultimately. So it's just not persuasive. And let's just also stop and realize, hey, the whole reason we care about this whole moral argument is we're trying to give you a reason to do something. You ought to do something. But to get an ought, you have to already have something beyond the is. It can't just be God says it. That's just an is. If you get from an is to an ought, you have some hidden premise that you believe, you feel that this is something that should actually be motivating. If you don't have that belief or that motivation, well, guess what? Tough noogies. It means nothing. If you are going to make a persuasive moral argument, you actually have to care about the motivation of the person you are giving the ought to. Now, it could be the case that you ought to follow the commands of God because it'll lead to a happy, healthy life. Okay, then you are ultimately justifying that in the facts of reality. So that's where morality comes from. It's what things motivate us and motivates us to our greatest of goals.
Yeah, I think that's a good description there. We do have a theist caller on the line. Are you ready to take a call?
Let's go.
Okay. All right. So we've got coming up. We've got Monsieur. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to tell us how to pronounce your last name.
Hello. My name is Monsieur Roicoq.
Roca?
Roicoq.
Did I say that right?
Monsieur, not Monsieur.
No. Okay.
Monsieur.
Sorry, my French is very rudimentary.
Yeah.
That is okay. My English not very good, So.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But
at this point,
my question,
I would use all my French.
My question.
Sorry, please go ahead.
How are you? How are you both?
Doing pretty good.
Très bien.
I want to give you warm best wishes from France.
Mm.
I hope you are
merci.
doing well in America.
Yeah, I've actually been I've been to Nice out there, and where else did we go in France? Did we go to a couple places? Just Nice? Just Nice?
Well,
okay.
Nice is very nice. Nice is very nice. It is a funny joke in France. We say Nice is very nice to all the
so
Americans
we were in Nice,
and the British.
Yeah, so we were in Nice, and then we drove through France to get to Monaco, and we visited Monaco there for a little bit.
Oh yes, you must be very, very rich. You must be very rich going to Monaco.
Oh no, not very rich. Just I guess right time and place. All right.
Yeah.
So what's your question?
People are very wealthy in Monaco.
Okay.
So my question is, why is there such an obsession with theists? Why don't you just let them believe?
I would say
see
That
how
is
we're
my
restricting
question
them.
for you.
Okay. May I? I would say we do let theists believe. I'm not going around and ripping Bibles or crucifixes away from people. What I would do is say, hey, I'm at this platform where we can discuss or argue about it, but also insofar as it comes in and affects our politics, then I'm going to push back against that. If, for example, someone is going to say, I'm running for this position and I'm going to use my belief about gods to take away rights from women or from homosexuals, I'm going to be like, oh boy, we got a religion problem here, and boy, oh boy, am I going to push back against that. So it's if it's live but live, if someone is live but let live, then it's fine. For the most part, c'est la vie. It's just fine. But if someone is using their religious beliefs to harm others, to foist their beliefs on everyone else, and use the power of government to do that, I will want to speak up about that.
But the same argument can be made with the other side, no? Like the pro-homosexuals, they can. Why do they want to insist their belief on the theists?
What belief are they imposing on theism?
Can you explain? How are they?
Yes.
Hello?
What are they forcing onto theists?
Well, they are propelling this idea of homosexuality onto people who do not believe in that, no? Do you
When you
think
say
that
that,
is
are
fair?
you saying, are they going around, are you saying like gay people are going around trying to make people gay, or just existing is the problem? Because if it's the latter, we're talking about human rights, and when a religious person comes along and says, you offend me for existing, I say, you go fuck yourself. You are a piece of crap hurting this world, and I will push against that every single time.
No.
I will always go on the side of defending human rights. On the other hand, if you are saying that gays are actually trying to go out there and convert people, that's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that. I think you need to let me clarify what I am saying.
Okay.
So you essentially said that the people who are theists are basically putting their beliefs to affect people who are homosexual, right? The same can be said from the other side.
Said if they are doing that, if someone is going into a position of political power and using that to basically suppress the rights of gay people, that's a problem. If a person's just religious, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do anything against another person. And there are plenty of people who are religious and are completely embracing of gay people. So I say, if you are someone who uses your religion to harm people, I will push back against that. If you are just happen to be religious, that's something you just keep to yourself.
Do you respect the belief of theists that they don't, let's say, for example, the Judaism, they don't believe in homosexuality. Do you respect that?
No.
Do you respect their beliefs?
When you say they don't believe in homosexuality, I don't quite know what that means. And again, I also would not want to say this is what Jews believe, because there's diversity in all religious traditions.
Well, let's take Islam for example. They have a blanket ban on homosexuality. Would you
Some, yes.
respect their beliefs if they are not shoving it down someone's throat?
What religion do you believe in?
Me, I am just a theist at the moment. I am exploring lots of religions.
Okay, so what if we were to say, we don't believe in theists right now, and if you are a theist, then you need to be forced to change, and you can't have the same rights as other people and all this other stuff. If we started saying that and imposing that on you, how would you feel?
But I don't think this is the case right now. I think the majority
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to stop you right there. I need to stop you. If you don't stop, I need to stop you because in some countries that are controlled by Islamic law, they are literally putting LGBTQ individuals to death. That's modern day. That's right now. That's literally denying them the right to life. If I were to do that to just all theists, how would you feel?
This is an entirely different question, Mister.
It's really fucking not, but you're starting to robot, so I don't know what's going on with your internet. Maybe over there in Trollland.
Capital punishment?
What?
Hello?
I think he asked, do we have capital
Do you have
punishment?
capital punishment in America?
I feel like you know that we have capital punishment in America.
Well, of course I do. Well, making a point, the people in America, you have to respect American law. When you go to a country which is an Islamic country, you need to respect the law, no?
If the law is bad, then it should be changed. If it's unjust, it is unjust no matter what country it is.
Well, do you think it is just that 1 in 3 black men are prisoners in America? You know?
No, I don't think that's just. I think that's the reason we should be changing things.
Well, this is,
right.
rather than...
Also, hold on. King Cock.
That exactly proves my
King
point.
Cock. Okay, Mr. Cock,
Sorry?
listen. We're not actually
Excuse me, my name is Monsieur Roicock. My name is Monsieur Roicock.
King Rooster, which King Cock would be a viable alternative. Listen.
No, it is not.
We're not actually talking about violating the law or respecting the law or anything like that.
It is not King Cock.
You know what? I'm just going to drop you because you're a troll. I'm not here for having the troll calls tonight. We've had plenty of troll calls, so I'm just not even going to bother. There's also speculation that maybe he's actually this one caller called Mr. British or Mr. British's son, or we could just abbreviate to Dickbag. But in any case, we do have plenty of other real people that are lined up. Do you have any final thoughts for that call?
I just had to check because my French is not so great, but apparently the word for troll is the same in both English and French. So he could be a troll on multiple continents.
Yeah.
I say un troll. Mon français c'est très mal.
Yeah. I haven't actually taken a French lesson from Duolingo in a while, but I was pretty far along. Not pretty far. I was somewhat along in it. But in any case, we do have another theist lined up, which we do have atheist callers, but we're going to prioritize theists that want to interact. So I'm so sorry for the atheist callers that are on the line. We are going to get to you, so don't hang up or anything. But we're going to address Alexander, Alabama. What's up, Alexander?
Yeah, how you doing? Wow, this is my first time ever calling. Anyways, I don't want to bother you guys with the boring stuff. Let me just get straight to the point. So, I have been a hardcore Christian in the bathtub, talking to God, all type of stuff till I was about the age of 14, I believe. or 30. It was one on 13 or 14. I was on Grand Theft Auto 4. I was in the airport just shooting people up, and some guy said something about, said, "Oh, I swear to God, this happened." I was like, "Oh, you're gonna get in trouble if like it kind of made me question." And I was like, "You're gonna get in trouble if you don't follow up on that." 'Cause I was a hardcore believer, and he started just telling me about evolution and all these things, and I had a rational mind at the, I guess I just had a rational mind, and I started looking it up, and then I became an atheist for about, I'm 28 now. I believe at the age of 27, I became an agnostic because things just started. It's really hard to explain, but things just started happening in my life at certain times, like that seemed to perfectly align with the situation that I was going through, and it just seemed like very symbolic of a higher being playing with my reality. It's really hard to explain, but
So can I ask you a
I
question real
guess
quick?
I want to give you guys an example. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Right now there's like a non-zero. I don't know how many exactly, but there's like a lot of kids that die of starvation every year. But sure, God
Yeah.
is intervening directly in your life instead of
Exactly
like,
that, and yeah, and I feel like that's a selfish way to look at it, and I really don't want to look at it that way because, and a lot of stuff, I'm still going through a lot of stuff myself, and I believe I'm in the hardcore South, and everything that's just going around me is just always going to be some. I don't know if it's just the Bible Belt I've been put in, because I used to live in Atlanta, Georgia, and then my mom, we came down here. So
I mean,
I
it's
don't
not
really.
really down. Are you in South Alabama? Like that would be down, I guess, but really Alabama is just sort of a little bit to the left.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I figure it was kind of a Bible Belt, but it's probably not as severe as other parts of in America, I'm sure.
I mean,
But I've had
Alabama is
all
no
kinds.
Mississippi, but I mean, yeah, it can be pretty bad, I guess. I should know. I'm from North Alabama, by the way.
What part?
Huh?
Or I was asking what city. It doesn't matter. Well, I just want to get to know you guys. But
Huntsville area. Huntsville area is where I'm from. Let me ask you this: Roll Tide or War Eagle?
for the sake of just saying, because I am a huge introverted nerd, I've recently started getting out and started doing stuff with other people, but I don't really associate with sports. I've just started playing sports games. I used to hate sports, but I just go Roll Tide for the hell of it.
Okay.
I guess
Sorry,
I'm
we can
false
get back to the
claiming.
conversation.
Okay.
I mean, from my
So
perspective,
I want to
it's a
kind of
little
give you guys.
difficult. I was just going to say it's a little difficult for me to take your story seriously a little bit, just because you started off by saying, well, I was a hardcore Christian, but then I was in an airport and I was shooting people up on GTA 4. Like, this just sounds like a
Well,
setup.
no, I had a conversation. I understand you guys have had trouble. I've been watching this show since I've been like since after that guy and me talked on the game. He's what sprung my curiosity to go question in the first place. That's why I brought that up. And after that, I started watching. I typed on YouTube, how do we know if God is real? And then I found Matt and Jen talking to somebody, and I've been just watching old episodes all the way to the top ever since.
Okay.
But it just, I'm trying to give an example.
I guess to clarify then, it's interesting that you watch Matt and you're a theist, because, well, that's not what happens when I watch Matt. So can you give an example of like what has you thinking God is real and intervening?
No, I was
especially in your
atheist
life?
all the way till. Yes, I was atheist all the way to now. Like, I've had several kind of personal experiences that seemed symbolic to what was going on in my life, and the time that it happened, it matched with the situation. But I started giving symbolism to numbers and all this other crazy stuff. And I keep just going back to remembering like what you guys have always told me, like you know, believe in something for a good reason. Don't just believe it just because it feels good or anything. But one I guess I'll give the most personal experience. I had a lot of suicidal issues growing up. And I've always tried to hang myself and other stuff like that. And then one day I just went out on the back porch and I hung myself and I went unconscious and everything, and the belt broke. Luckily it broke, and I came to my senses. My neck was almost dislocated, and it's just hard for me not to feel like that was kind of, you know, I mean, I understand the reality of the situation.
Well,
I don't want to just give like.
Well, so right, I understand, man. First of all, I want to ask: have you sought like professional help? Because I mean, this is like that's a progression.
I am. Yes, I take medicine and everything. I'm good. I don't have suicidal issues anymore. I was just talking about my past.
Okay. No, I get
but
you. I
I
just wanted to
appreciate you
make sure
asking and
first.
checking up.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
because I mean I'm diagnosed with clinical depression, and I mean I still, even though I'm pretty well adjusted now, I still have things that I deal with occasionally. And so I mean I can somewhat relate to what you're talking about here. And I mean I don't know, when I look at those types of situations that you're talking about, I guess I just take it as in a more physics oriented
Coincidence?
kind of way. Well, not
Yeah.
coincidence, but like
Does it,
physics. I mean, I guess I just feel like the chances of like that particular thing happening that you experienced in that particular attempt is something that is likely to happen. So I don't think that there was any greater meaning to it, but also at the same time, don't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
regardless of anything that's happening or going on right now, like it's so much better for you not to do that than to actually do that. But
and I-
you know, I don't think that we need some kind of transcendental or higher like anything in order to convince us that, you know, to live our lives. I think that, you know, you and your effect on people in your life should be the thing driving you to, you know, be the best person that um but also, I mean, I'm not sure what you were going through that drove you to that particular situation, but I'm for one, I'm glad
well,
that that you got help and everything, but I don't think that you should think of it as a, well, God intervened, because there are so many people out there that lose this battle, and I feel like automatically assuming that, well, for some reason God specially took it upon himself to save you. I would be
yeah.
concerned about what that says for other people that have lost that particular.
my friend, he did it on Facebook and he died. So, and I've always imagined calling the show and you guys saying this exact thing, and because I've already got that mind. I've already had that mindset. Evidence first, logic, and just don't jump to conclusions without a good reason, and don't try to put a special meaning on something just because something weird happens in your life at a certain point of time after something else happened, and it all seems symbolic. But at the same time, I have been doing a lot of drugs. That's why I'm still living with my mom. And I think that's also kind of rewired my brain, and I've different types of ways of thinking and stuff. But I appreciate you guys taking my call. That's kind of all I wanted to talk about. I can't really give you any other of the experiences I've had because I didn't catalog them or anything, and I don't remember them. So
That's
But
fine. I've kind of dominated this. I'm just kind of curious if Aaron has any thoughts about this particular topic.
Let me just start off and say, Alex, I'm glad that you're with us because, oh shoot, am I frozen?
Oh yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, I'll fix that in a bit. But Alex, most importantly, I'm glad that you're here with us, that you're able to be around and actually give these sorts of stories. So that's the most important thing. I'm hoping you're in a better place. And you might be attributing this to another power, but I think it's worth noting where you're saying you're finding the symbolism in these sorts of things. I think that ultimately shows that what makes life meaningful is what we do to give meaning to life. God or not, if you can find a way to say what is going on has some purpose because I'm going to give it a purpose, that is the thing that makes humans amazing. And I really hope you continue to find things that give you purpose.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and one really good resource to use is Recovering from Religion. It's recoveringfromreligion.com, I believe, is the source. I'm sure that, or is the website. I'm sure somebody will have a link somewhere in the live chat if you're watching on YouTube and you're looking at the live chat. But Recovering from Religion, they can connect you with secular counselors here that are not just going to force some kind of God belief on you or something like that. But they also have like a call-in line that can, if you're struggling with something, they can help you out. And you can, run your thoughts by them.
I'm half white, half black, and just being even a part of black and trying to be an atheist, that is really hard in America.
Well, an atheist in Alabama is hard in general.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's recoveringfromreligion.org is what it is.
Okay. Well, I really don't need help doing that. I can kind of, just take face fact for it. I guess I just wanted to talk about it. Like I said,
No, that's perfectly fine.
Just talk about it.
I understand. Right. Yeah. And I was just saying, like, if you ever find yourself in another situation, that's going to be a good resource to use if you want to. I was just having that as an option, kind of thing. I would be remiss if, I would not mention that.
Well, I appreciate it. I think that's all I have for today.
Okay, I really appreciate you calling in, Alex. Yeah, hey, I hope you call in again.
I appreciate you guys. I will.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to find something interesting to talk about, though. Okay. You guys have a good day.
All right, you do the same.
Okay, thank you.
All right, see ya. Bye. All right. Well, that was kind of an intense call there. I didn't expect it to go that direction, but I'm glad that he called in. Just to let everybody know, if you want to support the show here on the line, you can go to patreon.com/call the line, and you can support us through there. That's going to be the best way that you guys can support us. It's going to help keep the lights on here at the line. And also, just to let you know, we've got a lot of shows coming up this week. We've got Chew Gum tomorrow night with Eve was Framed and Alyssa. And then that's at 6 p.m. On Wednesday at 6 p.m., we've got, Arden. It's with Arden. Right, not Eve. Arden. Totally forgot about that. It's with Arden and Alyssa tomorrow night. Tuesday, that's Chewed Gum. And then on Wednesday at 6 p.m., we've got Matt Dillahunty and Derek from Myth Vision. And then on Thursday at 2 p.m., this is all Central Time, by the way. We've got Takis with Katy and Josie. And then on Sunday, we've got the Sunday show with Seth Andrews and Forrest Valkai. And then that night and after dark, we've got Matt Dillahunty and Erika, the Guts at Gibbon. And then on Monday, we've got SkepTalk at 6 p.m., Forrest Valkai and Jesse. So if y'all want to tune in this week for all of the shows, we've got a lot of great stuff coming up. And then, if you guys don't know, if you're a Patreon member, you get access to the podcast, which is pretty great. It's hosted by Jimmy. In each episode, at least one a week, he calls another creator from here on the line and has an impromptu discussion and then gives them a quiz, which if they ace, they will win a prize on behalf of a specific patron. The episodes go out to patrons first, and only patrons can win prizes and leave comments, which are read on the air. And then free patrons and Discord only patrons, they get the show 2 weeks after that. And then YouTube channel members get it on a delay of some amount of time. There are already at least 2 episodes out with Apostasy and Eve Was Framed, and apparently it's the greatest podcast alive, just so you know. So definitely support the show. We are going to get to another Theist caller, the next one. Are you ready there, Aaron, for the next Theist? Oh, you're muted, or we can't hear you there.
All right, how about hear me now?
There we go.
Right.
Yes, we got you.
All right. Reset.
All right, we're going to talk to Max. He's a theist. What's up there, Max? How you doing?
Hey guys, how are you? Assalamu alaikum. I would just like to make the case again of why the religion is so important and useful. And my case is going to be about if it brings people together and gives them like a purpose, so you're able to better mobilize the society. And one example of this is the kamikaze pilots in Japan in World War II. Because they were there's this Shinto religion, right? The state religion of Japan. It was like a traditional faith that was taken to be, pro-state and pro-government. And because of this, it was able to engage many people who would be, very effective and very dedicated to their mission. And I wouldn't discuss, of course, Japan was bad and all the war crimes they committed. However, the ability to make the people fight until the very end is very important and useful, I think, and it shouldn't be disregarded.
So you're just saying religion in general is useful.
Yeah, and that is my point, that people should be theists, because then the religious authority can tell them what to do, and they're more likely to follow it through.
Okay, well, so I'm sorry, Aaron, I dominated last time. What are your thoughts?
You say, are you familiar that a lot of kamikaze pilots purposefully failed to complete their missions?
Not really. I didn't read about that in the Pacific War series.
I need to look at what the actual numbers are, but many pilots would go out and say, for whatever reason, hey, my aircraft isn't working right, I need to come back, or I couldn't find the target, whatever. Many pilots found excuses to not ram themselves into the side of a battleship because they didn't think it was worthwhile to do that. Actually, no, the problem is also became rather ineffective. During the war, once the kamikaze pilots were happening, basically the U.S. developed a new different type of fuse on their guns that would be better activated close to the ships or the aircraft they were flying at. So towards the end of the war, the kamikaze pilots were just being blown out of the skies, accomplishing nothing. And conversely, looking at the alleged tenacity of these pilots was apparently one of the motivations for the U.S. government to use atomic weapons on Japan, thinking that this is going to be the kind of people they'll be fighting if they try to then push further into Japanese occupied territory. So in actual fact, the kamikazes ultimately failed and probably helped lead to some of the worst bombings in human history against them. So, let's also point out that lots of things about the Japanese government was also completely off the walls at that time, because you basically had the military of Japan infighting with itself. The Navy and the Army actually did not get along with each other, and they were pretty much like running independently, and to the point of basically like sucking up all the resources and manpower of trying to invade Korea, invade Japan, invade China, invade the Philippines, and try to attack the US. It's kind of crazy to attack all those places at once, and that's because they were out of control. They were out of control from the central government, and even like assassinating their prime ministers and things like that. That's how out of control that whole system was, and you think this is a great thing for society? Japan literally lost its democracy for these crazy nuts who basically got their country fucking nuked. This is what we want in the world?
No. That was the nationalists, the militarists in Japanese society. But let's go to another example. Then.
Exactly. The militarists were able to use the various bits of Japanese culture to get themselves murdered by the millions and commit atrocities by the millions. And this is what we want to use to motivate people? Holy shnikes, no.
No, they didn't commit atrocities in the name of Shinto religion. And also, like another example,
they were just saying that kamikazes were willing to commit to to basically doing these suicide missions for religious reasons. And I'm also pointing out, here's all the other shit that basically happened in the Japanese military at that time that ultimately led to the humiliation and absolute destruction of their country.
But it wasn't because
and that is pretty nasty compared to. And by the way, who won that war? Did Japan win or did the U.S. win? And which of those two countries had the kamikazes? I think that tells you right there how wars are actually won.
Your industrial base. Of course, if you build 200 times the industrial capacity, you're going to beat the Japanese. And who have more resources, they're going to lose the war from the start.
But the way that you actually win and you get things motivated is having the material means to success.
Yeah, sure. But okay, I have a counterexample to that. Iran-Iraq war. Saddam Hussein attacked Iranians after the revolution. The Iranians, they had like Islamic Republic. They were, less, bad already, for example. But by utilizing the religious idea and the resources, however bad that is, in terms of sending human waves to attack Iraqis, they were able to stop the Iraqi offensive and defend their country. Of course, we can say Iran right now, it's crazy totalitarian Islamic state that oppresses women, but there were concrete results, and I'm not saying we should copy everything, but the utility
concrete
of that
result.
Is you can't.
Hold on. Concrete results. If we're going to talk about the Iraq-Iran war, can you tell me how much did the border move after about a decade of war between those two countries?
It didn't.
Exactly. So what was the great success? Millions of people dead?
Iran was
Again,
able to
you might want to actually find some examples of where religion actually motivated people to some great end where things improved, rather than motivating people to slaughter each other.
How is that?
I'm saying your example is showing just how shitty religion is. It motivates people to basically throw themselves into the meat grinder.
No, to protect their statehood and their independence and their, people's territory. Saddam wanted to take the oil fields in southwest Iran.
It's also worth noting that you can also do that without religion. How about we go to World War I? Because every time I read the stories about how those battles were, I can't believe humans ever did that to themselves. But the thing is, that was straight up nationalism. There was the German spirit, the Russian spirit, the French spirit of, why we have to, defend our land or invade these other folks. Once again, it seems like, unfortunately, humans are pretty good at finding excuses for killing each other. And I don't think religion should just add to that pile of terrible reasons why we're killing each other.
Yeah, and just to add on to this, I don't know what any of this has to do with a reason why religion, everybody should believe in some kind of religion or everybody should be atheist. I don't understand how World War, like the Japanese in World War II, or any of this really applies to why people should believe in a God. I don't know how any of this actually applies to that. So if you could speak to how believing in a God has benefited these situations, even in the modern day, because one of the problems that I see with God belief is this skewing of a person's, view of the world, their worldview. Because right now we have certain places here in America where people would rather pray to God to heal their significant other or their family member or whatever. They would rather pray to God to heal them, or do the religious healings, mass healings or whatever. They would rather do that than actually seek medical help. So it kind of seems to me, at least, that there's a net negative in at least modern religious worldviews, in that it can definitely cause some people to forego reasonable medical treatments and end up seriously harming or even killing people. So it seems to me like belief in God is a detriment in those situations. Now, I'm not saying that belief in God is always bad or always causes these things, but a belief in God has the ability to make situations much worse. So that's all that I'm going to say. And I'm going to unmute you now there, Max. And you're good to go. Oh, okay. He hung up.
Okay. When you were, John, when you were going there, a quote popped in my head, and I had to double check the source. First century Roman philosopher Seneca, he famously said or wrote, "Religion is regarded by the common people as true, by the wise false, and by the rulers useful." And unfortunately, every example Max gave pretty much proves that point to the detriment of humanity.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. All right, so we've had an atheist caller that's been holding on for like 45 minutes, and we're going to address their question real quick because they've been a trooper and held on for so long. And then we're going to get to another theist caller. So, Rudy, what's up, Rudy?
Hey, what's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad. I've been listening for a long time. It's my first time ever calling, and I'm really new to syllogisms. I've just been trying to, learn about this stuff a little bit. And I made one, and I was hoping I could give it to you, and you could critique it or help me out with it or whatever.
Okay,
we'll try.
Alrighty. So the first premise is, if God created existence and the cosmos, then God created time and space. Premise 2, if God created time and space, then God must necessarily exist outside of time and space. Premise 3, nothing can exist for no amount of time. Premise 4, nothing can exist in no place. Therefore, God cannot exist.
Well, I mean, this might be a sound argument for a creator God, like a creator version of God, but I feel like something existing outside of our time and space, I don't know how we can know like what exactly exists out there. Like, sure, our time and space doesn't exist outside of ours, but maybe Aaron can enlighten a little bit.
Well, I mean, as Rudy had, one of his premises is that basically living outside of space or living outside of time, and so the amount of time that you've existed is zero, which is another way of saying never existing. I think that's what Rudy is getting at, is that it sounds ultimately what Rudy's main premise back there is being outside of space and time is equivalent of non-existence. And that is where I can imagine a believer trying to find some way to push back. Now, admittedly, I can't imagine what it means to be outside of space and time. It strikes me as incoherent, and yeah, the idea that if something exists outside of space and time, the amount of time it existed for is 0 seconds, which is the exact same as never existing. I just also...
Yeah.
I try to think what would be a response and what metaphysics one could try to apply to get around that. And this is outside of what I could speak to with any confidence.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it is to address a creator God. There's definitely a few. I've come up with my own, retorts to it, which would be like, God didn't create time and space or the universe. He just lives within it. And therefore, So it is specific to one argument, which is the whole idea that God created the universe, God created time and space. Because I feel like if you created existence, you would like necessarily have to exist before you created it. So you couldn't be inside of something that hasn't been created yet. And so I think the idea of outside or before time and space is incoherent. I don't think that anything can exist for no amount of time in no place.
Well, for me, I know that it's always confused me, like this whole existing outside of time and space. So I definitely agree with that point. And I think that I'm very Gnostic when it comes to specific definitions of God, which I feel like the kind of God that you're proposing here, or that your argument handles, is specific enough to where we can prove that it definitely doesn't exist. And I think that the fact that it exists outside of time and space, and you can't really describe what that means, like without the addition of magic, we can't really describe that situation or understand it, because it makes no sense. It seems illogical for something to exist outside of time and space. And so, I mean, I guess I would agree with your syllogism. And it's definitely better than Cameron Bertuzzi's syllogisms. But I think that that the creator God, the idea of a creator God, is definitely not a very sound argument because of how theists generally present it. So I'm always very cautious to say something definitely does not exist or that it can't exist. Because I just simply, I'm not an expert in everything, so I just simply can't know. But I feel like for specific definitions of God that would be creator definitions of God, I think that the argument would be pretty, would hold pretty well. I mean, I'm not a philosopher, obviously. I'm just an engineer, but it seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, me neither. That's why, and I'm pretty new to it, so that's why I figured. And I've edited it a few times. I have presented it. Most of the time, they go straight to special pleading, the whole uncaused first cause thing, and so they claim that it doesn't need an explanation; it just is.
Yeah, and I've also noticed an internal contradiction to a lot of these arguments, and that's that they claim, like what Aaron was saying, kind of at the top of the show, that there's no really good argument that infinite regresses can exist, but there's this really weird thing in Christian apologetics, or just I guess theistic apologetics, where they claim that God is eternal and exists outside of space and time, but that implies an infinite regress. Like them being eternal, just always existing, implies an infinite regress in the claim for God. And so it just kind of, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm sure that, William Lane Craig can specially plead out of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. Yeah, it seems like it just pushes the problem back one more step, which is why I say it's special pleading, because they say the universe can't be infinite. It has to have a beginning, it just has to. And that beginning was God. And then when you say, well, if nothing can be infinite, it must have a beginning, then, doesn't your God have a beginning? And they say, oh, no, it's God. So yeah, that's why I try to come up with something that can refute that isn't gonna just say nah, but give them like an actual logical premise to try to shoot down that weird idea that somehow something can exist and not exist simultaneously.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think they require special pleading or just arbitrarily adding magic to the mix. Like those are the two that what I foresee from theists is those are the two things that you're going to encounter: arbitrary magic and special pleading.
Yeah, they'll probably have some sort of additional metaphysical premise that allows for metaphysical time, which is different than our time and our different causality. That's how God exists in that sort of system. And what justifies that? It gets me out of the jam you just put me in, Rudy. that's the reason it will exist.
These things are truer than true.
Yeah, that's why in general I try even avoiding metaphysical arguments, just because metaphysics is best when you have the physics and then you're trying to explain it, rather than starting from metaphysics and then trying to say how the universe has to be because that's what makes sense to you. And what makes sense to people, boy oh boy, has that changed over the years.
Yeah, it seems like this is one of the main arguments that I hear, and I hear this on like TikTok Live. There seems to be a lot, at least the algorithm throws me into a lot of like just random Christian, debate forums where they're trying to ask people to come up and essentially challenge them, and that seems to be where they all go. They all kind of go to this. Well, it's a creator, and like you don't know how we got here. It's weird. It's like a kind of like an old, like a resurgence of some of the old arguments from 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. All right, Rudy. Well,
Awesome.
I appreciate you calling in and presenting that. It makes sense to us, and good luck with it.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all's time. Have a good one.
No problem. You have a good night. All right. Well, just to let you know, if you're a theist and you want to call in and defend some stuff, 720-619-2288. We do have a couple of theists that are waiting in the queue. So if you're ready, Aaron, I'm ready.
Oh, before we hop on, I think we also do need to remind the audience that we take super chats. We might want to remind them about that.
Yes, definitely. So any super chats, $5 and above, we will address here at the end of the show. So if you don't want to call in, but you still want to ask us a question or anything like that, consider sending a super chat, and we will be answering your questions at the end of the show. Thanks for that save there, Aaron. I totally spaced on that. All right. Let's get to Trevor. What's up there, Trevor? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I got a response to your quick response to your last caller, Rudy. You should read about the contingency argument.
I feel like he probably knows the contingency argument.
I beg your pardon?
Sorry, do you want to discuss the contingency argument?
No, I had a different question. I mean, I'm sure you both appreciate the contingency argument, but I don't want to exhaust my time.
I mean, appreciate
through,
that's kind of a loaded thing.
What's a loaded thing?
The contingency argument. Like, I don't have an appreciation for it, but I know that it exists. So, I think
you made an interesting point about infinite regress regarding the necessary being, which is independent of dependent things, and that's exactly what theists are trying to convey. They're trying to convey that the independent factor, which is a necessary being, which is outside all. If you start considering what dependent things, by definition have to be depended on by other things, right? Ad infinitum, that's an absurdity. So by definition, there has to be an independent being outside of the dependent events, if you understand.
Let's pause actually on
You're
that.
saying,
so I think I know the argument you're going for. So if there are contingent things, then those contingent things are dependent on other previous things. And the argument is that we can't just have infinite contingency. There must be something that is necessary, right?
Absolutely.
All right. The necessary thing is quantum physics. We're done.
Well, the thing is, that's such an absurd response.
Why?
The
quantum mechanics doesn't depend on anything else. It's fundamental.
Absolutely not. Quantum mechanics exists in this universe. Without
I say it exists in all possible universes. Prove me wrong.
Well, look, I'm not a quantum physicist to prove you wrong, but by definition, that quantum mechanics is within this universal system, right?
Actually, here's the interesting
How do you
thing.
know that?
The interesting thing I want to note here is that
How do I know that? It's by definition, right?
First off, if you're going to go by definition, I'm just going to say your definition is faulty. But here's the real quick thing. Time and space may not necessarily be fundamental and actually emerge from quantum mechanics. Emergent space-time is an active field of research. So space and time are actually contingent on quantum field theory.
Sorry, here, I'm going to unmute him now.
Well, you're asking me for proof, and you're talking about theory and research. You know, just because
Things
you
that
say
exist.
quantum physics or quantum mechanics doesn't make you smart.
Didn't say so. What I am saying is we can take your argument about contingency and just make the necessary being the fundamental quantum nature of reality, and then we're set.
I don't think you're appreciating your own argument. You're saying,
I
what
think
are
I'm
you
actually
saying,
appreciating
quantum
it quite well.
particles?
I'm just pointing out it's arbitrary to say the necessary being is God, and God happens to be the same thing as what Christians say. I'm saying since it's kind of arbitrary to just say what is that necessary thing, I'm going to go and project from what our science seems to indicate, and it seems to be the case that the most fundamental thing that we can point to is quantum field theory.
Well, that proves my point. Quantum field theory. It's a theory. It's a
Do you know what a
theory.
You
theory is?
said the word theory, Aaron. You're fucked.
Well, can I actually get on to my question now?
I thought you did, but
I
all
mean,
right.
Can you?
Well, my question is, did you both get a DNA test of your mother's giving you birth? Have you checked with a
I don't know
DNA
what this
test
has
that
to
your
do with
mother's?
anything.
Well, it does have everything to do with it because both
If
of you
saw,
all
motherfucker,
rely on
listen,
science.
if you saw me and my father juxtaposed against each other, there's no denying my father, and I guarantee you no other mother would want me. So I'm just saying, like,
Did you get a
there's
DNA
just
test
no
or not?
possibility I'm not my mother and father's son.
Well, there you go. You got the belief. You believe. You're a believer. You're a
No,
believer.
I believe in things that seem to be
I'm a
factually
believer.
given. There are other ways of knowing who I am descended from besides DNA. And as John was pointing out,
Well,
you
why
can
don't
look and
you
say, hey,
enlighten
I
us?
inherited these
Enlighten us,
characteristics
please.
from my mama, from my papa, from my granddad. Because believe me, I can go and say, yep, I got my hair from my dad, but it's also extra curly because that's what my granddad had. But on the other hand, I'm expecting baldness because that's what I got from there. I got the heart issues from my father's side of the family because I get all that, genetic lottery stuff in my favor. Yay. There are lots of ways to tell who are your parents besides DNA tests. There is also some documentation.
Well,
I got
that's the
myself a birth
definition of a
certificate.
theory.
You know what a
my
theory
Well, a
is?
birth
dad,
certificate ain't no proof.
it was
Trevor, do
past
you know what a
genetic.
theory is?
And what you've been saying, sir, is a theory.
What
You're
is a theory?
theorizing
What
that
is theory?
you've got these inherited
Trevor, what is a
characteristics.
theory? What is a theory?
Well, I don't need to define what a theory is. You're asking me for
You
scientific
don't know
proof.
what it is, so I'm going to have to tell you what a theory is, because if you don't know, I'm going to have to help here, all right? A theory
Well, I do. Why
isn't
don't you
just
let me
a
define
random
what
guess.
a theory is? A theory. Let me finish. Let me tell you what a theory is. A theory is clearly distinct from a hypothesis. Okay, and theory is essentially collates evidence that supports the initial hypothesis and is regarded by scientists to be a not completely irrefutable, but one of the highest levels of evidence. But it's not proof.
Okay. Here's the thing. I don't need proof to get through my life.
So I do know
And
what a
if the
theory
evidence
is. Thank you
very
very
strong,
much.
I'm done. I'm set. If I win and got a DNA
How
test,
do
you know there'd be a
you
chance
came
it
from
would come
your
back.
mother?
I asked her.
You asked her. Well, how do you know your mother hasn't been with another man or something?
Well, how would that affect? Well, hold on.
My
How
mother
would that
has actually
affect?
told me about her dating history. So here's the thing, Trevor. If you're trying to basically say, if I don't know something 100%, it's like I don't know it at all. Because if we go by that, I don't even know you're on the phone call, and I don't even know if we should continue with this phone call, because apparently I'm just talking to ghosts.
This is the metaphysical question.
The ghost is breaking up.
This is what you need to.
And the ghost has
understand.
shitty internet. That's for sure.
Oh gosh.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Well,
Hello?
you guys have been abusing. You guys have been abusing my cousin, Mr. British, and Monsieur Wackuk. I don't know why you're doing this.
No, I'm dropping you.
Yeah.
So
I'm accusing her.
He was
cousin.
from Texas, but apparently, anytime Mr. British has come in, he's just been calling from Texas. By the way, and maybe his name actually is Trevor. But so I dropped him. He's not a theist. He was a troll. So as soon as he brought up Mr. British, I just knew it. Like I was like, maybe not, but yep, Mr. British.
All right.
Yeah.
By the way, John, I don't honestly know who this Mr. British is, so I'm not in on the inside joke. I need a little bit of context.
Yeah. So Mr. British is a guy who has called in here several times and has pretended to be different people, and he, has different names and all that shit. So, I mean, it's just he's how do I put this? He's a troll, and he's not sincere in the conversation, it seems. But we do have another theist on the line. Just to remind everybody, if you want to have us interact with a question that you got or anything like that, please send in a super chat, $5 or more, and we will address your comment. So let's get to Steven from Germany. Hi there, Steven. How you doing?
Hi, I'm very good.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Question to Adair about the past, because generally I'm of the opinion that mankind cannot find the truth, not only in God belief, in all subjects we have, because we are not looking for the truth. And if you ask questions, then the people talk what their feelings are, but don't make the analysis correct. So if this example story, if someone play in the lottery every week, and then 1 week he forget to give the ticket to the kiosk, and his number came, then everyone is of the opinion that if he had given the ticket to the kiosk, he had won, because his numbers came. But that is, in my opinion, absolutely wrong, because we cannot change we cannot go back in the past and expect the same result. So the result in hitting the correct numbers only fits together with his past not to go to the kiosk. Because if we assume that he went to the kiosk, then other numbers had come, because we changed the past. His past is completely other because he went to the kiosk, not sit on the sofa, and so
Steven,
all the future. You understand what I mean?
No, I really don't. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Could you maybe boil it down to just a simple question you have?
It mostly happen in sport. If the reporter talk, if we would have hit the field goal and we would have won, but this is absolutely wrong because nobody know how the game would have continued.
How does this apply to truth? Because in the call-in screening notes, it says mankind can't find truth because we can never check the existing analyses. And apparently it's a physics question to Professor Adair about the past. I don't know how any of this applies to truth.
This means that we cases to find the truth. In this God question, this is obvious that you are correct. If it's a flat Earth or a round Earth, it's obvious that's a flat Earth. In every kind of this, if you ask people, they always talk wrong. And to say the example from Mr. Hawking. What I mean with this getting into the past, many people we are sorry that he has in the chair, but he self talked that if you have had this sickness, he perhaps would not this Mr. Hawking, the genius in physics. He talked his existence as the best physics on Earth only fits together with his sickness. So, and this is the theme what I want to have answered by a fig. Everyone has only past. And this is exclusive his life, and and if you say, if I would have done this.
Okay, if I'm following correctly, this sounds like an issue that to say what would have happened requires basically changing the conditions in the past to see what would happen, but we can't change the past to see what would happen. Our inferences are incorrect. We can't actually prove counterfactual statements. Is that close to what you're saying, Stephen?
Yes. This is very close.
Okay, so I also worded it that way because actually, in many ways, that problem is solved by causal inference. For example, the mathematician Judea Pearl has actually done a huge amount of work in creating the logic of causal inference and doing counterfactual reasoning with statistical data. So the adage correlation doesn't imply causation. There's the issues that things can correlate but not be causal. The work that Pearl has done along with other researchers shows the way of actually using mathematical logic and effectively running, in a sense, a randomized controlled test even without randomized controlled variables in an interesting way. So a lot of that work is at least done on a statistical level that gets around the issue that you have.
Nearly. I want to know if I'm correct if I say my life is only at this point with all the what happened to me in the past. And if I if I could change the past, then I was. This would result as it is now.
If things were different in the past,
correct?
things would be different now. Yes, sure.
What
But I
is
don't
this?
think that actually
What does this have to do
includes
with
the ability to reach proof.
This is because we always talk about hopes or about at the end not correct things. The better example is in gambling. No? If you are in gambling and you stop gambling, then your number came. Then every gambler says, "Oh, if I would have played, I would have won." But this is completely wrong. This is not the truth. Because if you would have played, then the past was completely others. You have to go to the table and put your money, and the croupier, he throws the ball a completely other time. So, but what is it like or not the truth is that the people assume that if they would have played, then the same result would be the outcome. But this is completely not true.
Stephen, I don't know how this relates to truth and how mankind can find the truth. Can you? I don't know, Aaron. Do you understand how this applies to truth?
This, I mean, we are. What is so? I feel pity is that we, as a community, as mankind, we have so many truths. Like Dr. Adair in physics, and we have so many people who know the truth, but the most people do what they feel or what they have in hand and don't make the analysis. This is the same as your special team about God. If I listen to the moral arguments or the fine-tuning arguments, we have the truth already. But you have to show the truth every weekend, every show, and because the people who listen or think other, they only listen their feelings, and then they not make one analysis. The truth is already there. No? The physicians, this with the fine-tuning argument. Is already in an axiom in this anthropic principle. There, the physics already told us that if we find this us in our world, we cannot find other than a perfect world, because we are inside this world. If this world would not be perfect to us, we would not exist. So there is
does this mean
there's a truth there, but nobody.
Wait. Yeah. So does this mean that God, like, are you making an argument that God exists, or like what's going on here?
No, I'm not a theist. Now I see it in the TV. This is later. I talked to the man who talked first. I'm not a theist and I'm not an atheist, more direction atheist. By I'm a clever one. But he wrote theist.
Okay.
Clever one. Okay. All right. Stephen, it's been a little bit hard to follow what you're saying. So, if I may, ist deine Frage einfacher auf Deutsch zu sprechen?
Yeah, but my English is not so good.
Okay.
Auf Deutsch
Admittedly,
spricht,
mein
ist
Deutsch
wunderbar.
ist nicht so gut auch, aber ich denke, dass deine deutsche Frage ist besser auf Deutsch zu sagen. Ist das richtig oder nein? Was du sagst?
Ja,
I'm sorry, I'm doing this to you,
die
John.
Hauptfrage. Ja, das ist die Hauptfrage, ob zu dem Leben nur eine Vergangenheit passt.
All right. So to take this a bit back, the way that we find truth or justify statements is through logic and evidence. So from pure logic, we can go, every man is mortal. Einstein was a man, therefore Einstein was mortal. This is true, and we don't have to worry about contingencies or quantum mechanics or anything else like that. This is just step-by-step logic. We can get to a true statement, right?
Genau, genau richtig. Ja. So sehe ich das auch.
Okay, nur, super.
Okay.
Was ist mein
auffällt,
Punkt? What's my point?
We need to stick with
if I could clarify one thing real quick, the call screener that we had is they are a she her, and apparently they told you several times she told you several times that she's a she her. So if you could acknowledge that, you know, she's a she her, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. He called, his name is Stephanie.
Not his, her.
Her name, yeah. Correct.
There you go. Okay. All right.
So he honestly asked me.
She.
Yeah, go ahead.
Her name is Stephanie. I'm lost in this entire conversation right now. I don't know what's being discussed.
No, I'm happy. This was the question about the past. This is very difficult, but Dr. Adair answered it perfect. So I'm very happy with you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you so much for calling in, Stephen.
Okay.
I hope you have a good night there, bud. All right.
Sorry to switch languages there. I just was getting a little bit curious because when we had the French caller, and I'm like, is this person actually able to speak French? I wanted to make sure that this wasn't another crank caller.
Okay, yeah.
I
went ahead and I dropped Stephen.
Okay. Before I can tell, Stephen's a native speaker, so I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't a troll.
Okay. Yeah, I figured that's what you were doing there. But that's going to be it for the callers tonight. We've run out of callers, so we're going to go on ahead and head to the super chats. So first up is $5 from the Transform Husband, who says John would say Hackers is a great movie or the greatest movie ever made. It's the greatest movie ever made, not because of the technical snafus and all the hacking, but just because it is the greatest movie. Saying, okay.
That's a Cronenberg film, right?
I don't know who directed it. Maybe
I think it was Cronenberg. Sure. It just only popped in my mind because just the other day I was looking and noticing. I don't know if you watched Star Trek Discovery.
Yes, I've seen Discovery.
Because like the secret agent guy that they have in that show in the later seasons, that's Cronenberg.
Oh, okay. Let's see. It was directed by Ian Softly.
Okay, then Oh, I'm sorry. I confused that. You said Hackers. I was thinking Scanners. A totally different film.
Scanners is definitely Cronenberg. Yeah.
Okay.
I could totally
Sorry,
see Cronenberg
I
being one.
completely whiffed on that. So my brain is still in the wrong country.
All right. You want to read this one?
Yeah, so we got 499 from 1K. Aaron, what do you think about the discovery from WJST in regards of the age of the universe? Some cosmologists argue we should revamp some theories. All right, so for context for everyone, JWST, that's the James Webb Space Telescope that was launched just a couple years ago. And what people have been pointing out is saying, hey, it looks like we have big galaxies or bright galaxies forming earlier in the universe than we should have expected. Why is that? A few people, and by a few, I think like one or two cosmologists, have tried to argue that this actually shows that the universe is 26 billion years old instead of 13-ish billion years, but that also depends on a theory of basically light getting impeded along the way. I'm trying to think what the right terminology for that right now is, but it's a widely dismissed proposition. There's been other evidence to show that no, this doesn't really work, that light gets tired light. That there's no real good evidence that light actually gets tired over these distances. So that doesn't work. Where I think the vast majority of the efforts are going into is what is it with galaxy formation? What other mechanisms are actually driving galaxy formation to be even faster than we expected? Does this require a modification to our theories of dark matter or even modified versions of gravity called MOND? That's a popular thing that's out there. Or there are other mechanisms that basically kind of squish stuff together in galaxies to actually get them driving and star bursting faster. This is active, awesome research. But the people who are saying now we got to like throw out the Big Bang, they're the ones who basically are just trying to grab headlines. They're not doing much real science.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter, who says, Aaron, last time you were here, you said we could see inside the sun. In light of that, what are the reasons Star Trek is better than Star Wars?
Okay, so I think that might be considered a non sequitur, which actually then leads to an episode of Star Trek with Nomad, the basically super destroyer probe that was launched by humanity in the late 20th century, but then crashed into another probe from another civilization and then became this basically destroyer of worlds sort of thing. Why is Star Trek better than Star Wars? It did not have the Rise of Skywalker.
I was going to say that it didn't have like basically magic in it. Like it's very scientifically based. So, I mean, that's the one thing.
I wouldn't want to say that just because if you want to then say, well, what's the science of teleporters? We're going to be in trouble. So I will let you have your force and laser swords if you allow me to have my teleporter.
Okay.
So we got $4.99 from Hipster Doofus. Aaron, what could have happened if the moon was actually split in half? My family and I are curious if it would alter other orbits. So if the moon just split in half, it just all of a sudden it was just like two pieces of like an oversized Oreo cookie and it just happens to be separated now. I don't really think it would make that much difference and gravity would just bring it back together anyways. If instead something basically blew up the moon to separate it out, it's hard to know what kind of chaos that could produce. I could also imagine, it's going to depend on so many things, like how that explosion would work and how much of the moon then would probably come down to Earth. I would think the best answer is we would not have a good time if that were to happen.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's it. That's all. We got one last super chat that just came in. Jordan said, "Are there natural processes that can change on their own? I mean, if there was a singularity or whatever, how did it change into the space-time universe without a push from something else?"
All right. So, for example, in, say, eternal inflation, one of the popular cosmology theories that's been around since the early 80s, you basically have this field that is just constantly popping out universes all the time. And in that exponential growth and that gigantic amount of space-time and energy that comes along with it, well, you get universes popping out all the time. And once you got energy, you got what you need. And it's also worth noting the amount of energy you need to create a universe ain't that much. When I say ain't that much, how much energy total is there in the entire universe? Our best measurements is it seems to be 0. That there's literally just as much like positive energy in the forms of light and mass, rest energy, and things like that, and then negative energy in the forms of gravity, that they basically both perfectly cancel out to the best of our measurements right now, which would suggest how much energy does it take to create a universe? Looks like 0.
Interesting. And then we got one more from Monkey at Typewriter who says, of course photons don't get tired. They're traveling lights. Also, did you know photons have mass? I didn't know they were Catholic. Good show, boys.
All right, we got 2 puns in one super chat. That Monkey Typewriters gets his money back. That was extremely high quality.
I agree. Well, that's going to be it for our show tonight. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to see if I can talk KC into go into a movie since we're done so early. Anyways, y'all have a nice night, and I guess we're going to head on out of here. I do want to say thank you to Morgan, who's doing the production tonight, and Stephanie, who was doing the screening. So thank you everybody for doing the show tonight. Y'all are awesome. And thank you, Aron, for being here.
Always good and fun to be here. All right. And this is the best I can dance, by the way. So this is all you're getting out of me.